6-3 podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and my co host, Ben. And it's been another really great weekend of football. Michigan starts out 2-0. It does look like a slow start considering they're still annihilating their teams. And then obviously the Lions just upset the Chiefs at Arrowhead. So we'll get to all that today. And we'll recap here the Michigan game against UNLV, Running Rebels. Ben, what were the things that maybe frustrated you about the way Michigan played, and what were the things that didn't surprise you that they'd run over UNLV with a score?
I don't know if anything necessarily frustrated me. I think first and second team.
That's kind of what I was going to say. The frustration was
down
I
to
don't ever
the
want to
third
see
team.
third team.
Yeah, the third team and fourth team. But I mean, can you really complain about that in a college team? Like most of those guys are walk-ons and freshmen. So nothing really frustrated me. I mean, if we see those guys in a real game, we're that's bad.
That's piss poor luck.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, we got other problems unless it's like a blowout. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if frustrated is the right word. I do think there's some things definitely to work on. I like what their decisions were as far as what they changed as far as different things they did in the run game this week, and they started to attack the perimeter more because obviously teams are kind of doing what TCU did, and Ohio State a little bit, at least in the first half, and kind of clogging the middle. That's kind of been the recipe that for teams to beat this team or at least have some success. And even ECU had a little bit of success at that in the first game. And so Michigan went back to some more zone stretches, did that reverse to Cornelius Johnson, ran JJ on the edge once. So you can see kind of they are adapting and adjusting, which is good. But I mean, you'd love to see more points. I think some of this is the new clock rules too, is that you're seeing scoring kind of down a lot of places. Even teams like Ohio State aren't blowing teams out of the water like they used to, because the clock is not stopping on first downs anymore. So it's kind of taking teams some time to adjust. So I think 35-7, I think you're going to see it look more like the NFL a little bit, where if you win by 3 touchdowns, you probably annihilated that team more.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that though. I think I like that separation between the NFL.
I like the old rules. I agree. I think it's having a bigger effect than they thought it would, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get it for the NFL because they're professionals. They played football for a long time. They understand the play immediately. And I think college, they know their playbook, but I think it also takes a little longer to process everything and it's communicated and executed correctly. So, yeah, I think that's the frustrating thing is I think you and I both kind of predicted early on in the season, especially with Harbaugh out, Michigan's going to be out for blood a little bit, and thought that they just run over these guys. And I think they're pulling JJ after about two and a half quarters at the most, which is good. You want to protect him, make sure he's good to go. But
he's been basically perfect. So if we have positives, he's basically been perfect.
I think I saw a stat that he's 4th all time and highest QB rating by any college D1 quarterback in the first 2 games with a minimum of 45 passes or something, 45 or 50 passes. Yeah. So that's impressive. Obviously, it's not the standard Big Ten level.
No, but if you think about it, if he's 4th all time, a lot of QBs.
A lot of teams have also had cupcake schedules.
Some cupcakes, exactly.
Well, he's at an 88.7 completion percentage, so it's pretty absurd.
He has 5 touchdowns and he has 6 incompletions.
That's amazing. I didn't even look at that stat from that perspective, but that's wild. Yeah. Also, we saw Jack Tuttle get hurt. They're going to give him the opportunity to show QB2, and hurt kind of on a Bush League play too. It was nice to at least see UNLV's coach went right over to Tuttle and make sure he was okay. Basically, really sorry about that. There's no room for that. But it was pretty Bush League. I definitely wanted to see some more of Tuttle. Davis Warren threw a pick.
Yeah, I think you worry about the backup quarterback right now.
I don't know if I worry about Tuttle. He's got starting experience, right?
Yeah.
So he's been there. But
here's my thing. I think they can win 9 or 10 games with a backup quarterback. But we're talking like bigger goals here. If
Yeah,
you're
you're
reality,
talking you want to go back to the
talking
playoffs.
you got a chance playoffs national championship. That's the idea, right? With this team,
Yeah.
that's why all these guys came back, and that's why that's the goal, right? I don't know if that'll happen with the backup right now.
Well, maybe Jaden Denegal.
No, he threw a good ball. He threw a pretty good ball, but I just don't. I think they could easily run through 9, maybe even 10 wins with a backup quarterback with this team. But like JJ puts them over the top, and in these tougher games against the Penn States, the Ohio States of the world, that you're gonna need that guy. So
Yeah.
smart to
We're
keep him
also
out.
going to need Donovan Edwards to get a few more yards on the ground. He's averaging 2.5 yards a carry right now. I don't even think he has 50 total yards and
No.
24 carries. I think he's like 24 carries for like 48 yards.
Yeah, he's got
2.6.
some touches in the passing game, which is good to see. Though they're definitely throwing him the ball more. He's lined up in the slot a lot, so I would expect him to figure it out. I think it's just the new offensive line. New tackles. I think it's just going to take a minute to kind of figure it out. But I would not be surprised if they start matching here in a week or two.
Yeah, so let's talk about who they are going to try to mash this week. It is Bowling Green. Connor Bazelak, who we have seen with Indiana. Right? Was he at Indiana? I feel like he was there. So he's one of the bright spots on the team. But Bowling Green is also 13-29 in the last 4 years. They're 1-1 this year. They lost to Liberty. They beat the Fighting Tony Romos of Eastern Illinois last week. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, is this just going to look very similar to East Carolina UNLV type of finish, or are they going to add a few more points to the board finally?
I mean, it's a night game, so that always fires the guys up. Sharon's head coach last game before Harbaugh comes back. I think the idea is to be like so fine tuned in this game that I think they're going to look pretty good. I think they'll be I think they might be in the 40s this week. Maybe even have the guys play 3 quarters. Depending on game flow and stuff like that. I also think that ECU is gonna end up actually being a pretty good team down the line. So I think they actually had a pretty good defense. I know Michigan made them look dumb sometimes, but like I think they're actually gonna end up being.
I thought they tackled well. They surprised on tackle.
I don't remember them missing a tackle at all. So, I think that'll actually end up being a decent win. I think they end up making a bowl game. Pretty, maybe 7-8 wins. I wouldn't be surprised, especially in their conference. UNLV, maybe not so much. I didn't think they were great, especially on offense. I just think that they weren't that great.
Obviously, they had the big drive against the walk-ons in the third and fourth strings, but
whatever on that. But I think Bowling Green you'll find probably falls somewhere in between them. But I think with night game, pretty fun atmosphere you would expect. I think Michigan will win. I'm gonna go. I won't predict a shutout, but I'll go. I know we predicted them before the year, but I'll talk about it. I'll go 42-10. We'll give him 10.
10. Okay.
Would be impressive.
Bazelak's a very good quarterback, I think.
He also he got annihilated against Michigan last year, and he was 6 of 24 against Liberty with 3 interceptions.
It was a bad loss. Somehow they still put up 24 points on the board. They have 2 pretty good running backs. They do have 2 pretty good running backs.
They have a really good tight end. They have a second team all MAC receiver who's really good too. So they've got some guys.
They got some pieces for Bazelak to help, but if Bazelak is, in the pass rush, I don't know if they've looked as good as they have. Obviously, go back to when they had Yabioki and
I think the ends can improve. I think Derek Moore's looked good, but they've been rotating those guys a lot. And Braden McGregor had a really good game last week.
Yeah. I told you I was very high.
Yeah, but I think the defensive tackles literally can't be blocked. I don't know who stopped blocking those guys this year.
Mason Graham, Chris Jenkins has been awesome. Yeah,
Chris Jenkins, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant has looked impossible to block. Plus, he's massive.
It's nice to see Derek Moore play quite a bit. Yeah,
Derek Moore he had a nice sack last week. So I don't really know who's going to block those tackles really on the schedule. I'll be honest. Like the top 3 guys are pretty stacked.
They really are playing a lot of dudes on that line, like Cam Good, Jalen Harrell, Rayshon Benny, Josiah Stewart, TJ Guy even got some snaps.
Guy played a ton.
Yeah, he played 19 snaps last game. That's pretty good. And then, they can also throw in Cameron Brandt, Trey Pierce, Keyshawn Bennett.
Yep.
Reese Atterbury is a
Yeah, those are the
converted.
guys that got pushed around a little bit later, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Reese Atterbury's not used to that kind of pushing
No.
around. He's just doing the other kind of pushing. And then, they're pretty set though on their linebackers. It looks like they really only play like maybe four guys.
Jimmy Rolder's hurt too, which doesn't help.
That might be why. I was going to say they're giving Micah Pollard's playing a lot more right now with Christian Boyven. But otherwise, it's been Colson, Houseman, Barrett, Jaden Hood's been playing.
Yep.
I'm surprised Keon Sabb is playing as much as he is.
Well,
I don't know if I predicted
Keon
Sabb
Page have not played, so that's where
yeah. Makari Page only played 10 snaps in the first game and 0 in the second.
Yeah.
Jaden McBurrow's 19 in each game. Quentin Johnson's playing a bit. Zeke Berry, was he hurt in this last game?
I think so. He played in the first game, but I didn't see him at all in the second game.
He played a lot in the first game too. He had 30 snaps in week 1.
Yeah.
Will Johnson only played 8 snaps this week. This past week.
So I think he's just they're working him back in. He didn't start because I remember when I saw him out there, I'm like, oh, okay. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if he's back this week, or they'll probably save him for Big Ten play. For being honest.
Do you like what you see from the UMass transfer, Josh Wallace?
I think he's good. I think he'll probably be the number 2 corner most of the year. I don't really see anybody passing him.
And then the last snap count that I thought was interesting was my guy, Caden Colsar, with 20 snaps.
He played well.
He played well. He put 20 snaps 20 snaps is quite a bit to just jump in because he has 0 in week 1.
He played very well. And he's coming off a knee injury, but he played well. Like he's
still no sight of a Morian Walker.
No, he's hurt.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's hurt. So we'll see.
Right.
I
thought Jair Hill did okay too. Jair
Hill's good. I would not be surprised if he's the 3rd corner by the end of the year. He's a stud.
DJ Waller Jr. is playing a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they got a lot of guys that have played, especially on defense. So I think that's part of I think they'll kind of get a more standard rotation. But I do think all 4 of those defensive ends are going to play. But I think they all bring something else to the table. And I'm telling you though, the defensive tackles are not going to be blocked. So.
And here's the other interesting thing is they haven't played super deep on their O-line yet. They've only done 2 teams, like a first and second team O-line. But right now they're sticking with Hinton, Zinter, Nugent, Keegan, and Barnhart as their starters. Yep. Trente Jones is leading team 2, but that's got still Ladarius Henderson, Giovanni Elhadi, Greg Crippen.
Jones plays a lot as the bonus Gentry. So they'll run him out there as a tight end, as a 6 offensive lineman a lot. He started technically because they worked that formation first.
He played in week 1, he played 15 more snaps than the second team did. So everyone else had 9 and he had 24 in week 1. And then in the second week, he had 15 and everyone else had 11. So still 4 more snaps. So yeah, he is playing as the extra tight end quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I think he's an athletic tackle. I just think he's not as, burly and strong as a lot of these other guys.
Well, Hinton is a huge dude. Especially seeing him in person, he's one of the biggest dudes I've ever seen. I'm not quite sure. I think his upside is probably higher than anybody up there. I just don't know if he's quite ready yet. So I thought Jones would kind of be the starter, if I'm being honest. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I understand why they're giving Hinton a chance to take the job, essentially.
Yeah, I was expecting to see Ladarius Henderson a little bit more, maybe give him a shot. But
yeah, I'm surprised by that a little bit.
It is interesting that 3rd team though has guys like Jeffrey Percy and Raheem Anderson. And Tristan Bounds and Connor Jones and Dominic Geddes. But I don't know. That I'm surprised they haven't gotten any snaps. Especially my guy.
I think it's just part of it is just trying to work in. You're trying to get some continuity with at least the first guys. The first team O-line even played a little bit with the backup QBs and running backs for a while. So I think they're just trying to build that continuity with them, especially early in the year, because that's kind of a good chunk of what offensive line is. So,
yeah, I'll keep updating these snap counts, but it is interesting to look at who they're kind of deeming as they kind of separate themselves in the depth chart. Tyler Morris came back, obviously healthy, which took away Frederick Moore's snap counts.
Yep. Morris had a pretty good game.
He did, yeah. Third, and Carmelo English and Moore are kind of neck and neck right now on that depth chart, I think.
Yep.
So yeah. All right. Well, then let's go on to our Detroit Lions preview. Again, really good things to say about this as well. And recapping their upset win in Arrowhead against the Kansas City Super Bowl champs. with an asterisk, obviously, as they talk about. Thanks, Mike Tirico. I think every game has an asterisk for now on. I'm
I
just
mean,
gonna say
here's
that.
my thing with that. Like, I can 100% acknowledge the fact that the game's probably different if Travis Kelce plays. I'm not saying one way or the other if the Lions win, lose, or whatever, but the game is different if he plays. The Lions play the game differently if he plays too. I'm sure they had a game plan to try to neutralize Kelce or
Well,
something.
you still saw how much they utilized their Noah Gray, still got
Right.
touches and stuff. Like they still use
Right.
their guys.
So 100% I can acknowledge that, but I can also acknowledge that the Lions didn't play their best game. They still went into Arrowhead and found a way to win. That's something. Regardless.
It's hard. A Super Bowl champs. Yeah,
Yep.
it's
On
it's
their
not
ring
just some
ceremony day. You know what I
scuff
mean?
off. I mean, it'd
Against the
be
best
like,
player in the NFL, you know?
yeah, it'd be like maybe if you said if it was, I don't know, maybe let's go like the Seahawks or something. If the Lions played the Seahawks like that, and the Seahawks were missing their two or three best players, and then the Lions had,
If Patrick Mahomes
everybody else.
didn't play, that'd be a caveat.
Okay, sure. I
But
might I
like
might be even down with that one. That's a
I would
huge,
that'd be massive, right? That'd be like, yeah, the Lions should have won.
but it's also still a Chiefs fault. I mean, the Chiefs could have paid Chris Jones. It's like you don't want him out there because you didn't pay him.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so you could have taken care of that on your own. It's not really a Lions' fault that Chris Jones didn't play, just like it's not the Chiefs' fault that Isaiah Buggs didn't play, right?
Right.
Or Jamison Williams got suspended, right? So it's kind of I don't think it should be that long of suspension, but it still would affect at least one game. So and people are talking about Kadarius Toney handing the game over. Yeah, he was a part of that pick six with Brian Branch. But remember Marvin Jones Jr. having his first career fumble in his 33 years of life on earth here. And within the 10-yard line. Within the 10-yard line.
Tony's also on the Chiefs last time I checked. So he's part of the team. So like that's how it works.
Yep.
I don't know. That's my thing. Like, yeah, he had a bad game. Like
so did Marvin Jones Jr.
Exactly.
Horrendous game, honestly.
Yeah.
They were both horrendous. I really don't want to even see Marvin Jones Jr. as until it's like the fifth receiver. I'd rather see Antoine Green now at this point.
You're gonna probably keep seeing Marvin. They're gonna give him more shots, unfortunately.
I get why. I mean, he's had a really solid career.
He's washed.
But he's washed. And it's like how many chances are you going to give him? He had his first career fumble, which is like, okay, everybody fumbles. It's about time. But then he had two really key drops. That fumble was in the 10-yard line on a really moving drive. They'd gone all the way down the field too on that, and that just killed momentum.
Yep.
And Kansas City pulled away a little bit after that.
Yep.
Then obviously the two drops. Aiden was held virtually every play up against Juwan Taylor, who was false starting and lining up as a slot receiver per Chris Collinsworth over half the game. Obviously the Lions missing Emmanuel Mosley, who's a starting corner for them. It doesn't equal Chris Jones and Kelce, but again, pay Chris Jones. You don't have that problem. The Lions also dropped two gimme interceptions, literally right through their hands.
Yep.
So it's there's a lot of things in the game.
I'm just not gonna qualify this. I'm just gonna say, look, they went in, they beat the Chiefs. Like, I'm not gonna qualify it. I'm not gonna, and the Chiefs fans want to say, well, we didn't have Kelce. Fair enough. You're right. They didn't, right? But like, they still went in and they're 1-0, and the Chiefs are 0-1. It is what it is, right? The Chiefs
It's always been that way. It's always been every team has injuries. Every team.
There's not going to be a team healthy the rest of the year. It's how it works, right? So it's part of the game, right? And
I do remember the Bills like 2 years ago. It just seemed like they had this exact same 53-man roster that they had in week 1 and like week 8. I was like, how?
It's pretty nuts,
yes.
Right? That doesn't happen very often, right? So it's going to happen to every team. Every team's going to have people banged up or hurt. It is what it is. I think I'm just not going to qualify this as like whether or not they, it deserves an asterisk or whatever. I don't care, right? They won the game. My big question is like, what does this mean going forward? I guess, like how far? I mean, because most everybody had this chalked up. If there was like a for sure win or loss on the schedule, if you had to pick one, this was the closest thing to a for sure loss probably before the season.
And now you feel like the Lions could go really 17-0. Like, I mean.
That's how you feel. They won't, but that's how you feel.
Like the Chiefs are going to be the toughest team, one of the toughest teams you're going to face all year. And at Kansas City.
Correct.
Like that's not even just a fluke home game win, right?
Correct. But you feel like they have a chance. And I think I even said it before the season started. I was like, after we ran through it, because I started to kind of get behind, drink the Kool-Aid a little bit more right before the season started, which usually happens for me. But I literally was like, I don't see a game on here other than this game, which is crazy. That is an L, like an
Right,
automatic.
and well, at Baltimore
And
looks
at Baltimore, I'd
toughish,
say so. I said two, right? I think I
but there's
said
gonna be an asterisk on that one because they don't have J.K. Dobbins. So
yeah,
I mean, but
right?
it is nice to say that I no longer think the Chicago Bears are a threat at all, and we'll eventually talk about them. But it's
Same.
just I I mean, maybe they get it figured out by the end of the year, but holy cow, they look horrendous. Um, so I really think this is the Lions division now to lose.
Yep.
With the Vikings losing, the Packers beating the Bears with Jordan Love. I'm still not sold on the Packers. Some people are like, wow, they got another Pro Bowl quarterback. You're like, stop it.
Yep.
But I don't know. You start drinking the Kool-Aid a lot more, even though if I look at it from this perspective, I think this Chiefs team, obviously now they do have Chris Jones again, but if a Kansas City Chiefs team was actually like Travis Kelce didn't exist and Chris Jones never existed, just like Thanos snapped him out of the world, that Kansas City Chiefs team, I think, is like a 9-8, 10-7 team. So how good of a team really did the Lions beat?
Right. I don't know, but they still have the best player in football, so that kind of changes the whole math
And
there.
that guy really did try to keep him in the game as long as possible. Gave his team ample opportunities to not screw up. Obviously, they dropped two picks that were pretty much given to him because at that point he was just trying to make a play. But
it's all a lot of catch, you know what I mean? So like he kept him in it, like with
yeah,
his so
extended plays, yeah, made it tough. So yeah, I guess we can talk a little bit here now about the Seattle Seahawks game. And just as I predicted, after Geno Smith wins Comeback Player of the Year, I think he's gonna win Broke Down Player of the Year.
Back to earth is what he's gonna
Back to Earth Player of the Year. So yeah, I don't know. I still think he's like not quite. I think he's teetering on like a career backup starter type of quarterback, but he's definitely not like that Pro Bowl QB from last year. I think it was kind of fluky, and I think it's going to look even more obvious again this year, this game, because now we're finding out Charles Cross is unlikely to play, and Abraham Lucas was put on IR, so they are missing their starting tackles already. In week 2, the Lions are running into another asterisk, but
I don't care.
They still have to look out for the return vengeance to the state of Michigan from Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and we'll see how that goes against them.
Are going to come out. I mean, those fans are going to be going absurd, especially after a win. They would have been going nuts.
A win against the Chiefs, like if it was a win against the Cardinals in Arizona, I'd be like, whatever. But
they're going to be going nuts. They're going to be fired up, and they're going to
break the decibel record at Ford Field.
The Lions win by 2 touchdowns.
I like that. I mean, technically 13 points is 2 touchdowns. I was kind of leaning towards 13 points probably. I think I was thinking like 30-17 if I try to come up with a score.
Yeah. I don't think it'll feel close is my whole thing. I think the Lions will thoroughly annihilate the Seahawks. And I think it'll feel like, there might be a hiccup here and there, like, some in the first half where like, it might be a little close, but they're going to wipe the floor with them, in my opinion.
It's when I see like the names Stone Forsythe and Jake Curhan at tackle now instead of Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, like a little less intimidating. And we already talked about it in the preview when we went through every game individually. The Seahawks have regressed at the offensive line position and are a bottom half offensive line as it is.
Yep.
So now they have former Lion at center, Evan Brown, right? Yep. They got Evan Brown. Well, we liked Evan Brown.
It's like the 7th guy. I liked Evan Brown, but
I liked Evan. I thought he was. I mean, he's up there with Grant Glasgow, compatible as that 6th guy for me. But Damian Lewis is pretty solid at guard. Phil Haynes has some years under his belt, but I don't think Phil Haynes is anything special. So Oluwatimi, though, he's kind of there. It's gonna be the other thing. JSN is healthy. Tyler Lockett looked rough. DK had a decent game at the beginning, but I think their superstar is gonna be Nick Bellore.
Yep. So the guy you got to circle. I'm sure he's all over that. He's right at the top of the scouting report.
Right, he's playing both ways. Travis Huntering it, linebacker, fullback.
So, I think I don't know. this is kind of one of those games where like I think we circled it before the year where we're like, hey, this is kind of one of those swing games because we were back and forth on Seattle, I think a little bit, but I think the Lions want to be seriously considered for like, look, this is a clear playoff team. I think they're and maybe an NFC contender. This is a game you just take care of, and I hope they wipe the floor with them, and that's what I'm predicting. But if they just take care of business and win, the way they're supposed to, then I think that's going to kind of show some maturity for this team and see where they're at. I was just super happy that like finally, even against a Patrick Mahomes, and I know this isn't the Chiefs offense of 2 or 3 years ago with all the receivers and Kelsey healthy and all that, but like it was finally like when the other team decided to pass the ball, I was no longer just cringing because I'm like, wow, we got some dudes back there now. Like we got some guys that are back there that actually
It's a holding the breath every time the camera starts panning out to the rest of the field, right? It's like,
5 yards behind the receiver like 2 years ago or last year for half the season, or Akuda falling down.
Like, I was gonna say we had corners that couldn't tackle worth a crap. So
flow.
The Seahawks have just come off a pretty bad loss against Matthew Stafford and the Rams, who don't have Cooper Kupp. So that's sad. They got ran over by Kieran Williams. So I think this is another game where I think David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have a real opportunity to just continue that path. I think the Seahawks also have some game time decisions with Jamal Adams and Devin Bush and Boye Mafe, and I think Mike Morris are all questionable for this game. So to add to the tackles, with like they're already hurt in week 2, I think the Lions still have to kick them when they're down. Like you said, this is to establish dominance in NFC and make a statement. In the preseason, when we were going through every game, we initially thought maybe the Seahawks, if they could even get some kind of replication from Geno Smith, would be another wild card potential team in the NFC. I don't necessarily see them that high up anymore, but it was one of those teams that had to be. This is a winner or prove that you're not there kind of game, right, for both teams.
You have this game. If it was in Seattle, I would have more doubts, I guess, even though I know Arrowhead won, but like this is at home. Your fans are going to be fired up. It's a sellout. Like you just came off a big win. Don't have a letdown.
And you have a long week to prep, right? You played Thursday night, playing Sunday.
Right. You go out there and you take care of business. This is what a mature actual contender would do. They would go out there and they'd take care of business. Like you said, they'd win by 10, 13 points, even if and look pretty good doing it, and then they move on, right? This is a team, they're in their wet, you know what I mean? Like this is a team that they should just take care of. And that's the next step for the Lions, I think, right? Is not to have like these super high highs and then also super low lows. They got to be even keeled and like keep building and building.
Just one game at a time, keep taking care of business.
So comments that I heard, like, hey, what does this mean to you, Jared? What did this win mean? Well, it just means whoever want to know. Like that's got to be the mindset. Right?
I think Dan Campbell really does try to keep him grounded in that ideology. Like you're 1-0, you beat a really good football team, beat another really good football team, and you know what? Every team in the NFL is still a good football team, right? There's talented players in every roster
in this league. Like if you don't show up to play. I know, the Giants looked like a freaking high school team this week, but they could go back out there next week and this upcoming week and
I was very high on the Giants too going into the season, so it was very surprising.
That was an ugly take. That was bad.
The Seahawks did just sign 41-year-old offensive tackle Jason Peters to their practice squad. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually bring him up for this game, losing now, especially if Cross is officially declared out. Cross is still technically not declared out, but I saw reports that it's likely he won't play. Abraham Lucas is officially on IR. But it's one of those things. It was like, do they let the 41-year-old run out there? He took a whole year off and he's 41. I just don't see that matchup going very well for him against a fast Aiden Hutchinson or James Houston having the step on him.
They gotta have a wheelchair out for him. That's
just in case, right? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game. Again, I like a lot of the pieces on the defense and the offense for the Seahawks, but I think the most well-rounded team, the intangibles of being a home game, fired up fans, probably going to remind us of the Pontiac Silverdome 1997 game against the Jets where Neil O'Donnell refused to snap the football because it was too loud. So hoping we get that kind of situation again. It'd be really cool to hear that fire up on the television. So yeah, I'm leaning towards 30-17 Lions right now.
I'll go 31-14.
All right, cool. Well, then we are going to take probably next week off, unless we find ourselves getting a free couple of minutes out there to quick recap preview. But obviously, these shows are a little bit not as long. Yeah, we're gonna go enjoy our vacation next week, and we'll keep you guys updated right when we come back.
Sweet. Sounds good.
All right, see ya.
Yeah.